أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Khudayja Datoo and I am but a humble student of psychology. I'm honored to be giving the talk today based on anxiety and mindfulness. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of anxiety, I'd like to present you with a case study. This case study is about a young girl, only 11 years old, who was generally confident at the time and had an easygoing sort of personality. Unfortunately, a significant life event took place and it was very traumatic for her. She could not adjust and she could not adapt. This became a cause of extreme distress for her and it left her with very little control in her life. Unfortunately, what happened is that it significantly impacted her day-to-day life and she was unable to live her life as she would have otherwise. In terms of her thoughts, she was constantly living in a state of worry, this sense of dread and regret and almost constantly ruminating. What happened is she turned to maladaptive strategies. She would have panic attacks, she would become obsessive, she would cling on to stationery and talk to the stationery because that was the only constant in her life amidst all the anxiety that was around it. Naturally, this started causing issues at school and eventually she was referred for counseling sessions. Now, this gives you an idea of anxiety within a childhood setting. But what is anxiety? So, anxiety is a feeling of unease, such as worry or fear, and it can range from mild to severe. Now, in Urdu and Gujarati, we may say something like "Mane ghabrat thai che," but you will notice that that is very natural. We've all experienced it, and we probably do experience it day-to-day life, right? So, for example, before sitting for an exam, before recording this PowerPoint, before going for a job interview, you will feel that anxiety, and that's the body's natural response. It's the flight and fight response, and that's fine. However, it can present a mental health problem if it does start affecting your day-to-day life. And it doesn't necessarily have to lead to a diagnosis, but it could do, and it would end up in a specific anxiety disorder. I guess some of the common ones that we may have heard of are social anxiety disorder, panic disorder, PTSD, obsessive compulsive disorder. There's another type that I would like to go into just a little bit of detail into, is the generalized anxiety disorder. Now, this disorder affects about 5% of the UK population, affecting slightly more women aged between 35 and 59 years old. What it is that it's a long-term condition, and the diagnosis is very broad because it looks at anxiety within different settings in our daily lives. So it's really a wide range of situations. But generally, you will see that it's characterized by frequently feeling anxious. In terms of the causes, whilst we cannot localize a cause, the general sort of causes would be a chemical imbalance, traumatic experiences, things like bullying, domestic violence. You may have overactivity in the brain, genes, and sometimes there is no obvious reason, but you will still see an onset of generalized anxiety disorders. In terms of symptoms, whilst they would very much vary because it's so broad, the common ones would be things like feeling restless, lack of sleep or concentration, lots of heart palpitations, sweating, grinding your teeth at night, feeling sick. And of course, the effects of this are not only physical, they extend to psychological effects as well. So, for example, you will find that someone with this may be seeking a lot of reassurance, they may start losing touch with reality, a lot of rumination, some depersonalization, and really this can lead to thinking traps because now that person is worrying about their anxiety, and it's an ongoing cycle. This would significantly impact day-to-day life. Holding down a job can be difficult, creating and maintaining relationships can be difficult, and so on. In terms of how to manage anxiety, the first step would be to talk to your GP. Now, your GP would generally do something like either refer you for psychological therapy such as CBT or prescribe medications, so anxiolytics or antidepressants. Sometimes you may have a combination of both. But of course, there are also some self-help methods that can help alleviate some of that anxiety, such as exercising regularly, reducing coffee intake. So it is possible to manage anxiety, and it is important to get that professional help. Now, this is something that has taken the world of psychology by storm lately. It's mindfulness. Why? Because our brains are professional storytellers. They like telling us a lot of stories. They can be very creative sometimes. But what happens is that amidst all of these stories, sometimes we lose touch with reality, and essentially we start living in this subjective world of ours that we've created. What we need to do is we need to learn to mind our minds. So here's where mindfulness comes in. It's all about simply grounding yourself and making contact with the present moment, forgetting everything that's going on and just focusing on the now. There is empirical research, evidence that supports mindfulness as something that can alleviate symptoms of anxiety and depression. It's also been recommended as an intervention by the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. So mindfulness is not really something that you can just talk about. It's really something you have to do and proactively do. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite you to join me in a very, very quick mindfulness exercise. Yes, there's a lot going on in our lives with the virus, with working from home, studying from home, and it gets tough. It's true, it's all happening. But right now, you're here with me watching this video, perhaps sitting on a chair, maybe in bed, maybe watching it on your laptop or phone, whatever it is. Just focus on the now, what it is that you're doing right now. And I invite you to join me in this mindfulness awareness exercise with me, which is called the 5-4-3-2-1 method. You'll see why. I want you to take a few seconds to look around you and notice 5 things that you can see. Perhaps it's a crack on the wall, a pen, maybe your phone. Just focus on those 5 things. And when you've done that, I invite you to notice 4 things that you can touch around you. Perhaps it's your hair, the pen, anything that's around you, the textured wall, and just focus on how the touch feels on your fingertips. Following from that, I'd like to invite you to notice 3 things that you can hear. Perhaps it's the clock ticking, maybe it's a work from home meeting going on, but just focus on the sounds that are surrounding you right now. Notice 2 things that you can smell. Perhaps you can smell the iftar prep. Maybe your scented candle is burning. And if nothing's going on, then just breathe in the air around you and get a feel for what it is right now. And finally, notice 1 thing you can taste. Maybe it's the aftertaste of toothpaste, maybe it's leftover iftar, or maybe it's just that parched feeling of being thirsty whilst you're fasting. It's a difficult sensation to sit with. Now I want you to take a moment and just think about how that mindfulness exercise went for you. It's not an easy task and some people struggle, and that's completely normal. But if, for example, you're caught up in that anxious moment or you're having a panic attack, then this is a very quick and easy way to help yourself calm down and ground yourself back into the present moment. Very lucky in that we have Salah prescribed to us 5 times a day. And we don't necessarily have to go looking for mindfulness exercises when really we already have them right here. Focusing on the recitations by focusing on the conversation we're having with Allah. And Imam Ali says, imagine every prayer that you pray is your last. Now, if we really took that to heart, we would put our hearts and minds into that prayer, regardless of what has happened, regardless of what's going to happen. And that's when we will be in contact with the present moment. Let's perhaps start putting extra mindfulness in our salah and start using that as our meditation outlet. I'd like to finish off with this dua that's very apt in this moment of anxiety. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. O my Lord, open for me my chest, in the sense that ground me self-confidence, contentment, and boldness. And ease my task for me. Remove the impediment from my speech, so they may understand what I say. Alongside this, I also encourage you to seek professional help if anxiety is something that you're struggling with. And it is possible to manage these feelings. It is possible to manage anxiety. Some people, it comes and goes. For others, it stays for a long time, but it is possible to work with. Going back to the case study that I started off with, that 11-year-old girl, now she's grown up, she's now faring well because here she is recording this video for you. So there's a little surprise. Inshallah, I hope that this presentation has been helpful, and I hope that you've had a lovely Ramadan so far, and inshallah you have a blessed month remaining. Jazakallah khair for listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
لا